Louvre. Sorry, that's my French just coming out. They threw soup at it. Employees responded by holding up curtains to block the visitors from seeing. That's a very French thing to do. These climate asterisks terrorists need to be arrested and given long prison sentences to see to stop. I mean, that's a little bit hyperbolic. I don't know how long somebody who's vandalizing something expensive deserves in prison, but let's see.
Yeah.
So they're saying, if my broken French is correct, something like this is what you think is important. Well, and I can only assume after that it's the planet's burning and everything. But before we watch the rest of it, I want to point out that this is like a 50-something-year-old woman. Have you noticed that a lot of these climate activists are like old hippie types?
Yeah. This lady is probably, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'd assume that this lady is this girl's mother. And if not, then that would be even more concerning to me, quite frankly, because first off, it is concerning that like you'd encourage your child. If this wasn't her mother, I feel like it would be more concerning seeing that this woman probably is aiding in the public destruction of property with a child that isn't hers. Like either way, it's terrible, you know? Either way, it looks really, really bad.
On va vous demander d'évacuer.
This is like just gonna mute it while we play. This is like Antifa, how they block people out from things that they don't want them to be seen. Now they're Antifing the activists with just, placards here, room dividers.
Plot twist. I am actually in France right now. This divider behind me is that right? Caught me. I am in France.
You're just podcasting live from the Mona Lisa. But yeah, what is this doing? You're blocking their message from getting out? Like, it's like, how about taking them away from your bajillion-dollar artwork? No, we're gonna block you out, you guys. This is what happens when liberal protesters do something in an extremely liberal place like Paris, and this is their only idea. Let's check. No, that's the end of the video. I hope it's not this woman's daughter, but that would make sense. I didn't think about that. Yeah. This is what you care about. You guys care about art and history and culture. The climate, you guys. Like, how long is this going to... This is one of the longest lasting, I think, psyops, if you can call it that. Don't you think? Like, the racism hasn't worked out as well as they thought. So many different storylines, headlines haven't lasted as long as climate change has. I don't think you can say they've been saying it from like since the 70s, and it's true. They used to say an ice age was coming, and then in the 90s it was greenhouse gases and ozone layer. But since around like the Al Gore time and 2012, so the late 2000s till now, this has been ongoing. Why do you think, Gabe, that this is such a thing that enthralls people for such a long period of time?
I'd probably say that it's the bit of truth, right? Because climate is always changing. Like when they changed it from global warming to global cooling to then climate change, they started getting more people on board because global warming, but like it's getting colder, or global cooling, but actually winter's getting pushed forward. And we get it later every year now. It's because climate is just always changing, and it always has been for the history of the world. So that's how they like get people hooked. Not necessarily a problem. Now, part of me can like sympathize with climate change activists, not in the sense that I think they're doing anything productive, because I think, quite frankly, it's stupid. But I do like understand from like a Christian perspective, we want to preserve like the earth that God gave us, right? Like we don't want to be destroying everything. But the thing is these people aren't like actually attacking like the root of these problems, and most of the time they're just like yelling into nothingness and harassing people for no reason, which is retarded. And I just fully disagree with the message. I disagree with a lot of this due to aid climate change, whatever it is. I feel like if we're gonna do anything, just stop littering. You know, like if that's the one thing we do to like help the earth, stop littering. Maybe stop being vegan. Yeah, I think those are like the solutions there.
I do also have a problem with the way that these protests are conducted. Not because they're stupid, and they are. The gluing the face to the road is one of my favorite things, and the sitting in front of traffic is one of my most annoying things. But the fact that it's just ineffective. What change? They think that by disrupting things, especially in Europe, they think this, like throwing the orange glitter and paint at Wimbledon or at the World Billiard Championships or the cricket game, they think disrupting people's lives is how to get their attention, and that's literally what they say. But why not do something that actually disrupts the government, as those are the people that are making these changes and decisions? Now, I'm not saying to do it. I'm not saying to commit crimes, because I would never say that. But when BLM or somebody, they are destroying things, I mean, that is going to get the attention of the government. And it did get the attention of Joe Biden and who's it and what's it and such and such. Yeah. But even for freedom-oriented protesters, whom I am more likely to agree with, they nearly never actually go and protest the parliament in Canada or the state house in the United States. That is usually left to the leftist. Now, obviously, the environmental protesters pretty much never do that. They have this different edginess to them where they purposely want to get certain amounts of publicity so they can get donations for it. But, you know, the crazy leftists, I think it was in the Tennessee State House, they staged their protest there. And, of course, there's the obvious truth. Whereas if you're a Republican or a conservative in the United States, you do that, you get arrested, but the leftists are allowed to do it. There's that obvious truth. But a lot of the protests that are more right-wing do not disrupt any sort of governmental proceeding. And I'm not saying they necessarily have to go and stop a vote or anything, but just maybe being outside a courthouse or being outside a parliament building or a state House of Representatives, something like that, where you're actually saying, hey, we're directing the blame at these government officials. Whereas most of the time it's, let's gather in a park and have a session there, or let's walk down the street in usually a pre-planned and legal parade. And those aren't effective at all. Obviously, the one true thing that has been effective was the trucker convoy, and they shut down an entire city for a while. And, of course, they had to deal with the propaganda about them and the noise they were making. Oh, the horns. My God, the horns. But that was something that was actually effective because they targeted it the right way. Now, the reason why they did it, you might disagree with, but no matter which side of the aisle it's on, I think you need to actually do something where you're letting the government know that you're displeased with them, other than just causing trouble in the streets, sitting down in front of cars until a big buff German lady comes and takes you out of the streets, or a British chav comes up and says, "Oi, mate, go get to work. I go get to me English breakfast." I don't know how much experience you have with what English breakfasts are, Gabriel. They're quite disgusting.
I know that it's beans and
just mushrooms, beans. Black pudding, tomatoes.
Black pudding? What's black pudding? You know, a lot of that stuff doesn't sound like too bad.
No, it's disgusting.
For bread. You don't like beans?
I'm going to have to bring it up for you then. I do like beans, but for breakfast, that's like the only acceptable thing besides the mushrooms.
Turn it up, Jordan.